Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. So these are my two books so far. I'm working on my third book, Top Secret. And when I was asked to do this, and I want to thank you for having me, I thought, do I really talk about sense augmentation? I mean, I wrote a book about that people think of as all about sense augmentation, and yet the terminology kind of didn't feel like exactly what I do. So I worked on this to kind of show what I do in every respect through teaching, through my art, through my writing, and three kind of projects that really stimulate me in terms of sense augmentation. And having done this, I realized I'm really different from the other speakers in terms of either functionality. A lot of these things are speculative. A lot of them I don't even understand, like me hybridizing with lichen is really about senses, but I've not gotten far enough to imagine the scenario. So as usual, I have way too many slides for the amount of time, and I'm going to go 90 miles an hour. And the thing is just to stimulate your senses, especially it will be visual. There'll be some audio. I'm going to take you through the books very briefly, some of the work I do, some of my student work, and those three projects. So here goes. So See Yourself Sensing was 2011, and See Yourself X was 2018. The first book is about the future of the body and the senses, and the second is about the future of the human head. And this is the way I see the senses. This is a Jan Fabre installation, and I feel like we really are just still uncovering. So See Yourself Sensing, both books are divided into 5 chapters, and these are some of the types of augmentations. The bottom would tell you that you're in a flood zone. The lower one, Alphonse Schilling, would change near as far, right is left, up is down, and so forth. One would turn you into like something that controls you. Anne Hamilton's coach changes the texture of your body. And there are other types of projects like environmental ones, a telephone in the swimming pool by Auger and Loiseau, and a wonderful thing that really should have been happening much more. Realities United's incredible thing that pushes out into the city. Also in that book are ways of reaching out to other creatures. This is Anthony Hall's interconnection between electrogenic fish. And this is James Auger's Smell Plus. So everything is rewired in these sense projects. So in a date, you don't see your date, you just smell your date. So is this augmentation or is this just a device? I question this on everything I do and anything anyone else does. So See Yourself X happened. It was happening, and then my plane crashed and hit a bus. And so that's very sensorial. And I started to think about the pilot and all the things that we do, whether it's the phone and the fact that my arms hurt constantly from all of the technology I use, to a pilot and whether they feel the width of their wings. In fact, one of them said he did feel the width of his wings, and that led me to World Beard and Mustache winners and the idea of extending into space, which is what See Yourself X is about. And what new sensations you have when you change your facial hair. Is that augmentation, that we have facial hair that sticks out, or that Michael Burton on the left takes crickets from far away to bring bacteria from far away into your presence? This is sort of related to the current pandemic. Is there a way that other creatures and our senses will join together to somehow save us in the future? And this is the world's longest beard by Hans Langseth. It's in the Smithsonian Institution. There's your kids playing with it. So is that sense augmentation, that someone jump ropes on your beard? Here's a project of somebody having their hair played for a Lithuanian music festival, Todas Miksumas. So we're zipping along, thinking about buildings, the augmentation of sensing buildings, sensing you becoming linked to the mycorrhizal network.
The mycorrhizal network is just below the surface of the forest floors.
That's something I'd really like to see, leading to Michael Burton and Michiko Nita's suits that allow you to eat without eating. So it's got a component of taste and touch. Michael Burton, again, attracting species from far away into your mouth through this seed mouth. And they all have wonderful titles that I'm skipping. Amazing, weird project by Tanya Blanco about the kind of complexities of science. That's the oncomouse. It's the first patented creature, and it was patented to be cancerous. So back to ethics, can we augment ourselves without the detriment of other creatures? For example, what we're doing to the pangolin, the most trafficked animal. This is a protector, a pangolin keeper. And then I look at both the species and how we imitate species, and the species themselves and their marvelous tongue that goes down to the bottom of their rib. Like, there's not a lot of tongue work in augmentation. That's always been a disappointment to me. Other images of, I think, like looking at an image of a matryoshka that is called by Jaime Pedarch, that is representing kind of irradiated humans, is in a way sensory augmentation, the reminder of the distortion. And all of these projects have that quality. On the bottom is Catherine Fleming, the idea that you'd have a baby bear that you'd be stewarding in your apartment in an incubator, or that we change animals to delight our senses. And then I did a little sketch of your brain sort of splattening, and Lorenzo Oggiano did a sculpture of the idea of you're no longer you're just this protoplasm with senses. And ultimately you're just a head, and then you're a head on Mars in Kahn and Selesnik's work. Okay, enough about that. We'll come back to the weirder projects. This is what I do as a teacher. I was introduced as an artist, but I probably am as much a university professor teaching what is the original see yourself sensing projects, these sense augmenting, much more mechanical works.
Press the orange one because these won't go down on us. Oh, okay, ow.
Aftertaste and after image blinking and
keep going.
a tongue project. These are all like sophomores in undergraduate. Then I do workshops. This is at Cranbrook, my favorite robot maker, Michael Candy, working with another student, Sada, to do something with the tongue we don't usually do. And workshops at Switzerland with ZHDK, or maybe ZDHK. So sometimes we can get together and do mad sense augmentations. And this is a lovely, I gave a talk at Copenhagen's Interaction Design Project, and this fellow, Jose Chivario, was contacting me about my book and ended up with a pretty great project. 5 different ways of augmenting the sense. This one, sonar. I'm not sure how much time I have, but I'm getting to my...
Madeline, you have 1 minute left.
Okay, gosh. Okay, so this is a little bit of my work getting closer to nature. I'm just going to go real fast. When I started the Face Nature series, and articles like this really strike me about what we're all doing, that all of our children are getting nearsighted because they spend so much time in screens. So I wanted to be outdoors, close to nature, sort of thinking about the future of senses in these hybrids. And moving a little quickly, even becoming a tree. So this is like my art. And then there's the 3 projects. Marguerite Humeau, who brings back animals that are extinct through the larynx, creating these giant full-scale larynxes through incredible research with scientists. And this is what that sounds like. So I think I'll finish on time. So sense augmentation about heading back into time and understanding that what we're about. Michael Burton and Michiko Nita creating a new larynx out of stem cells through research about animals whose sound augmentation capacity is so greater than the size of the animal. And this is some of their research. They basically worked with a scientist on creating a new larynx that would try to heal the horrible divisiveness happening because of Brexit in England. It was like a larynx that would, we understand now that the voice can stimulate stem cells. So this voice will stimulate the entire population. It's as though you'd have a prosthetic secondary larynx to speak to a whole population. And each of these little images is a different quality of larynx, one that would speak to whales, one that has its own technology, And they're just fantastic and always on the cutting edge. This is an opera singer with a new anthem for Britain, using this deep resonant sound that affects your actual body cells. And finally, the last two projects, this is Sean Raspet. This is a wall in a gallery that is stem cell retinas. So the idea that there's no longer you, it's a wall of retina becoming light sensitive with no brain. That really interests me, very post-human. And finally, this fellow who's discussing how if we can use CRISPR to take on some of the abilities of avoiding cancer of elephants and the little water bears, then we can go into space. And I end with a Dyson quote. You can look at it if you'd like, but it talks about how we'll just be like black dust in the 5 billion years it takes for our sun to go. So I love the idea of, well, what are our senses? My daughter said, will we have feelings when we're black dust? Thank you. Sorry about the speed. That's just the way I roll.